Hey guys, welcome back to MEDIocre-Lectures, the only place where you can find lectures neither good nor bad. Today we're gonna talk about the external features of the heart, specifically on the anterior surface, which is also called the sternocostal surface. Again, a little bit of basic information again. If you watched the other videos I uploaded, you probably know this already, but just in case it's the first time you're watching, I'm gonna review some of the basic structures and features of the heart. First of all, the heart in position is in the anterior mediastinum. According to clinical terminology, and it has two surfaces. The anterior surface is called the sternocostal surface, which we're gonna talk today about. And the posterior surface is the diaphragmatic surface. I always make the same mistake. That's the same one in the last video. Yeah, well, just Google it how to spell it. I have terrible handwriting. Some say it might predestine me to become a doctor. I think it will kill somebody one day. Okay, guys. First of all, again, we have the two margins. Here we have the obtuse margin. Here we have the acute margin. And then we have, again, the two other structures, which would be the base over here of the heart, which directs posteriorly and to the right. And down here we have the apex of the heart, which directs anteriorly and to the left. What we can still see here from the big structures, we have here the right atrium, opposite of it we have the left atrium, we have our big veins and arteries, namely here we have the inferior vena cava, and here we have the superior vena cava. Both of them open into the right atrium. On the left side, the left atrium, we have the right pulmonary arteries. And we have the left pulmonary arteries. Both right and left pulmonary arteries open into the left atrium. Then we have the right ventricle and the left ventricle. From the right ventricle, we have the pulmonary trunk that arises from it. Which again splits into the right and left pulmonary artery. And here we have the left pulmonary artery. From the left ventricle, you cannot see it here because it's obstructed by the pulmonary trunk. We have the aorta, which arises from there. Starting with the ascending aorta, the aortic arch. And now we have three other arteries that arise from it. Let me just tell you what they are. First, completely on the right here, we have the brachiocephalic artery. In the middle, we have the left common carotid artery. And completely to the left, we have the left subclavian artery. Again, you can see I drew a brown structure here, which is a ligament called the ligamentum arteriosum. And the ligamentum arteriosum, again, is a remnant of the fetal circulation, in which it is called the ductus arteriosum. And it is a passageway between the pulmonary trunk and the aorta, which shuts off immediately after birth and turns over time into a ligament, which you can still observe in the adult. The next structures, which are quite important, are yellow here. They are yellow for a reason, because they are filled with fat as well as with arteries and veins. I'm gonna talk about them later, but first let's focus on the structures itself. The structures here that separate the atria from the ventricle, those two structures, they are called the coronary sulcus. Again over here as well. And this one is also a sulcus, but it separates the left and the right ventricle. And therefore it is called the interventricular sulcus. Those are basically the most important structures so far. Let's talk a little bit about the big arteries and veins we have, beginning with the arteries and the veins of the interventricular sulcus. The big artery you can see running completely inside the sulcus is the anterior interventricular artery. Anterior interventricular artery. It supplies both left and ventricle, at least the apical part of it. The blue structure also running in the interventricular sulcus is the so-called great cardiac vein. Moving back, but staying in the sulci, we'll focus on the right coronary sulcus first. Also here the arteries. The big artery running in the right coronary sulcus is the right coronary artery. It has several branches, but just to name the biggest branch of it, this would be the so-called marginal artery. This one running down here, the red structure. Running alongside the marginal artery is the small cardiac vein, this blue structure over here. Moving over to the left coronary sulcus, here we have also arteries and veins running. The artery running here is the so-called circumflex artery. Yeah, and those are basically the biggest structure of the sternocostal surface of the heart, which you should memorize and also keep in memory afterwards. I know med school is stressful and you have to study so much in detail, but I think those are the big structures every physician should keep in mind. Usually you forget all that stuff afterwards, after you pass the exam, but I think the biggest structures should stay in the mind of every physician, regardless of speciality. I think this is basically it. If you have suggestions for another topic I should cover, or if you found some mistakes, as I said in the earlier video, I'm still a student. I'm doing this to revise, mostly. If you can learn something from it, the better. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Stay in school. Stay in med school. Don't do drugs. At least not too much drugs. Thank you. Have a nice day.